always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany a walk along the moors. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. Bliss like thine is bought by years, dark with torment and with tears. Those lines are from Sleep Not, written in 1846, a year before the author would publish one of the world's most passionate love stories. This hour is not for the faint of heart. To Wuthering Heights and beyond. With Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Justin Hines, and I Wish You Well, and Celine Dion, and Have You Ever Been in Love? I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Emily Bronte was born July 30th, 1818. She, along with her other two sisters, Charlotte and Anne, were among the very first English women who ever achieved any kind of fame as writers. Charlotte published her first novel in 1847. It has since become a classic, Jane Eyre. And before you think this is not relevant today, these books are still in print, and some of them even make book clubs, like Oprah's. It's been said that she created the character of Jane to show her sisters that heroines didn't have to be beautiful. It dealt with the love affair between a young governess and her mysterious employer, a certain Mr. Rochester. But it's not that classic that we will spend the balance of the hour with. It's another, even one more famous, one by her sister Emily, that has her walking the moors with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Missing Everything But the Girl. Matchbox 20 if you're gone, and Barenaked ladies with a modern-day Jane. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. That same year, 1847, Emily's classic love story, Wuthering Heights, was also published. It was believed by some that it was really Charlotte who wrote it. Funk and Wagnalls said this about this classic novel: the story of the desperate love between the strong-willed Catherine Earnshaw and the orphan Heathcliff. The story followed the lives of two families over several generations. The biographer in Funk and Wagnalls went on to say this about the book: inspired by the desolate and violent beauty of the moors surrounding the Yorkshire home of the authors. Unquote. In a biography that appeared in the liner notes to a Hallmark edition called Wuthering Heights, the love story of Catherine and Heathcliff, from the Immortal novel by Emily Bronte, edited by Peter S. Seymour, and illustrated by Lois Hatcher. It was said that she traveled very little during her short life and never married. Was she waiting for a man like Heathcliff? When one has such a vivid character in mind, can the reality ever live up to the fantasy? I'm reminded of the true-to-life character who was Margaret Mitchell's inspiration for Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. Maybe that's the reason why Bronte never did marry. She never found her real-life Heathcliff. My love for Linton is like the foliage in the woods. Time will change it. I'm well aware, as winter changes the trees. My love for Heathcliff resembles the eternal rocks beneath, a source of little visible delight, but necessary. A classic love story this hour, the true life story of Emily Bronte, and the fictionalized version, Wuthering Heights, for Lovers and Other Strangers, from iTunes and CHFI.com. Avril Lavigne, I'm With You, and Evanescence with My Immortal. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. It is unique. Nothing remotely like it has ever been written. It is a novel of a passionate imagination. A note from the back cover of my copy of the original novel, an edition that was published by the Quality Paperback Book Club in 2000. I want you to think of the setting in Robert Altman's Gosford Park. Cool, oppressively damp, maybe November, in the moors of Yorkshire, England. Emily's writing gives us that same feeling. We deferred our excursion till the afternoon, a golden afternoon of August. Every breath from the hills so full of life that it seemed whoever respired it, though dying, might revive. Catherine's face was just like the landscape. Shadows and sunshine flitting over it in rapid succession. But the shadows rested longer, and the sunshine was more transient, and her poor little heart reproached itself for even that passing forgetfulness of its cares. An excerpt from the novel. It may have been August, but there was a feel for late autumn in her character. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Seals, Kiss from a Rose, and Norah Jones, and Come Away With Me. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. As is said in Merriam-Webster's Encyclopedia of Literature, the story is recounted by Lockwood, a disinterested party, whose narrative serves as the frame for a series of retrospective, shorter narratives by Ellen Dean, a housekeeper. The relationship is a love affair that is destined never to be all that they hope it would be. Both die, she first after giving birth to a daughter, he years later, no doubt, of a broken heart. Nellie meets Heathcliff sometime after her death. This is what he tells her. It is one of the most chilling passages in the book. Consider what's going on in his mind and what he's actually doing here. The day she was buried, there came a fall of snow. In the evening, I went to the churchyard. It blew bleak as winter. All round was solitary. I didn't fear that her fool of a husband would wander up the den so late, and no one else had business to bring them there. Being alone, and conscious 2 yards of loose earth was the sole barrier between us, I said to myself, I'll have her in my arms again. If she be cold, I'll think it is this north wind that chills me, and if she be motionless, it is sleep. I got a spade from the tool house and began to delve with all my might. It scraped the coffin. I fell to work with my hands. The wood commenced cracking about the screws. I was on the point of attaining my object when it seemed that I heard a sigh from someone above, close at the edge of the grave, and bending down. If I can only get this off, I muttered. I wish they may shovel the earth over us both. And I wrenched at it, more desperately still. There was another sigh, close at my ear. I appeared to feel the warm breath of it displacing the sleet-laden wind. I knew no living thing in flesh and blood was by. But as certainly as you perceive the approach to some substantial body in the dark, though it cannot be discerned, so certainly I felt that Kathy was there, not under me, but on the earth. A sudden sense of relief flowed from my heart through every limb. I relinquished my labor of agony and turned consoled at once, unspeakably consoled. Her presence was with me. It remained while I refilled the grave and led me home. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Randy Crawford, Eric Clapton, David Sanborn knocking on heaven's door. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. After he is found dead, the story of Heathcliff and Catherine is not over. Not yet. But the country folks, if you ask them, would swear on the Bible that he walks. There are those who speak of having met him near the church and on the moor, and even within this house. Idle tales, you'll say, and so say I. Yet that old man by the kitchen fire affirms he has seen two of them, looking out his chamber window on every rainy night since his death. And an odd thing happened to me about a month ago. I was going to the Grange one evening, a dark evening, threatening thunder, and just at the turn of the heights, I encountered a little boy with a sheep and 2 lambs before him. He was crying terribly, and I supposed the lambs were skittish and would not be guided. "What's the matter, my little man?" I asked. "There's Heathcliff and a woman yonder," he blubbered, "and I dare not pass him." I saw nothing, but neither the sheep nor he would go on. Emily Bronte died at the age of 30 of tuberculosis. In the liner notes to the Hallmark edition featuring excerpts from Wuthering Heights, Charlotte, her sister, was quoted as saying this about her death: "Never in all her life had she lingered over any task that lay before her. And she did not linger now." These are the last few lines of Wuthering Heights. I lingered round them under that benign sky, watched the moths fluttering among the heath and harebells, listened to the soft wind breathing through the grass, and wondered how anyone could ever imagine unquiet slumbers for the sleepers in that quiet earth. According to an article by Mark Kennis in a past issue of the Toronto Sun, it is believed that the ghost of Emily Bronte walks the path between her home and her fabled moors in Yorkshire. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.